welcome to another up close video. Today's one is looking at the Ohuhu 48 set of pastel alcohol markers, and they are the Honolulu series, so they have the brush and the chisel nibs on them. They are fantastic pens. I've really been enjoying them, and the lovely people at Ohuhu were really kind to send me this set of pens to play with. They were going to send it to me to test, but they didn't have any in the Europe warehouse, so I've had to wait a little bit to get hold of them. But I have coloured all of these things the other day, literally just sat down and coloured all of these images. I had so much fun colouring with them. And I really love having a whole set of pastel colours, because pastel colours are always the ones that run out the quickest, because you're always using those lighter colours to blend everything together. But although this is a pastel set, with these two in particular, you can see there are a couple of darker tones, like a deeper blue, a deeper green, a brighter yellow, a slightly brighter pink, so you can get more depth as well. You've got like those shading colours in there too, but really beautiful set of pastel colours. Now I'll move all of these out of the way. I will show you them up close a little bit later in case you want to see those, how I've coloured them. But I'll show you the packaging that they come in. So they come in one of these gorgeous little like canvas bags. You've got the 48 on the front. It tells you that they're the Honolulu series, so you know which type of pen they are, because Ohuhu also make bullet and brush nibbed pens and bullet and chisel nibbed pens as well. And I think on their website you can select which series you want your pens to be in when you select your set of pens that you want to get. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that this is the second set of pastel colours that they've brought out, which I think is why it says O2 there. But that is the SKU in case you want to look up the exact set. I will have it linked below as well, because they do sell it on Amazon too, so I will link to Amazon for you. But when you get your packet, you get a lovely little bit of packaging just to protect the top of them in transit and to keep them in that nice rectangular shape. You don't have to keep that in there, but I've just left mine in there. Then you also get in here this plastic sheet, and it also tells you on here what this is for. So you get this plastic sheet and you can put it behind your page as you're colouring, especially if you're working in like a colouring book or more of like a sketchbook or something, or maybe you're on the go, or you know, working on a table that you definitely don't want to get anything onto, like any colours bleeding through the back of the paper. You can put this between your pages and it won't stop the pens from bleeding through to the other side of the page. That's always going to happen because that's just the nature of alcohol pens, but it will stop your ink going on to the next page and like possibly ruining something that's already on there, or you know, adding colour to a colouring page that you didn't want the colour to be onto. So you get that in the actual canvas case, which I think is really lovely. Then you also get in here your swatch cards as well. You also get given swatch cards, so you can instantly swatch them all and have a good look at all of the different colours that are in here. And you can see like the slightly darker ones that sort of pop out at you, which are really great for adding that little bit of shading. But there's loads of beautiful pastels in here that are just fantastic for creating subtle kind of looks. And I've put this in my CRaFTi Advent series because I think it goes really nicely for Christmas cards, having that pastel kind of tone, because it gives more of like an icy frosty kind of feel to your images as well. So I've really been enjoying these for doing some Christmas card colouring. So those are all of the colours that are in the set, and you can see all of the numbers that are on there. They also have names and numbers, so if you prefer to remember names or numbers, you've got the options between them. I'm not 100% sure what their numbering system is, but I tend to just go by the swatches rather than what is written on the pen. With any of my brands of pens, I always just go by what the swatch looks like rather than what the pens actually say and what their sort of numbering system means, really. So I find the swatches are the most helpful thing, and the fact that you get them in here is really lovely. But I do recommend doing your own swatches onto your cardstock as well. So all of my alcohol pen swatches, I've got 4 little wadges here with all of my different ones in. I do all of them onto my same white cardstock that I always use for everything, so that you know exactly what colour it's going to come out on the cardstock that you use. So I do recommend doing your own swatches as well. But don't the colours just look absolutely gorgeous? And if you want to know the order that I've swatched these in, it's actually listed on a piece of paper that comes in the set as well. So I just followed the order that's on here to do all of my swatches. So if you want to do that as well, you've actually got the order on this little piece of paper that comes in here too. Also, this set is not just 48 markers, it is actually 49 markers, because they throw in a colourless blender for you, which is really lovely, because colourless blender is more like an eraser, so you can kind of like push the colour back in if you go out of the lines, or you can do some really cool effects with a blender as well. You can do like bleaching kind of effects and do patterns into things once you've coloured them as well, which is a really cool way of using them. But you do actually get the blender in here too, which I think is such a lovely idea. So I will show you a closer look at the pens in a second, but you also get this little manual that's in here, or little like leaflet, and it says it's the Honolulu series, and the Honolulu series means brush and chisel nibs, which is actually my preferred type of pen anyway, because although some people, if you like to colour a lot of fine details, then the brush and the bullet might be the better option for you. But because I like to experiment with all of my alcohol pens, I like to be able to make some backgrounds with them as well, and I feel like if you have the chisel nib, you can lay down colour more quickly because it's like a larger nib, and you don't feel like maybe you're you know, squashing the point of a brush or something to create backgrounds. But there's also something else which is really cool in here. This has got all different languages in here. It's not actually like a massive long selection. This is just the English in the beginning. So it's got all sorts of different languages in whatever language you speak. You should be able to find something that you can read and find out the details from. But this is so interesting. The brush nibs on them are reversible, so if you did ever accidentally, you know, go over something you shouldn't, or maybe you go to put the lid on the pen and you miss the lid and you like split the brush or something. I'm not sure if that can happen, but it could happen. Or maybe you press it down too hard and you bend the nib or something, or you really contaminate it with something that you shouldn't put near an alcohol pen. You've got this capability of taking the brush nib out, and they've shown you one with like a squashed nib on here. You can take it out and twist it round, and then you get the perfect pointy brush nib again. So I think that's fantastic that you can actually switch it round, and then you've got that perfect point again. If you really love colouring in details, that's going to be so handy for you, that as soon as you feel like the brush isn't getting into those fine details for you, you can flip it over, and you can also buy replacement brush nibs as well, which is even better. So you can actually replace them afterwards if you needed to. I think for most of us crafters, we probably wouldn't even need to like flip the nib around, but if you are someone who does colour in a lot of detail, this is such a fabulous idea that you can flip the nib around and get that point back again onto your pen, or you can purchase extra ones and put them into the pen and get that point back as well. I think that's really cool. And there's also a few other like blending families and things on here. I think this lists all of the pens in the Honolulu series, perhaps, with all of the bright colours mixed in with the pastels as well. But I love that they give you some little blending tutorials as well. I'm not sure if these are the actual colours that are in here actually. No, I don't think they are the same colours that are actually in this set, but it does give you ideas of how you might want to blend. So here they've blended yellow, green and purple, but you'd never really think to pick a purple, but they've just put it in the tiny little shadow areas, so you could take that on board and use some of the pastel tones and use a yellow, green and a light purple to get a little bit of shading in there as well. So I think that's a really lovely little addition to add into the set as well. Then, after all of that, I will show you what the pens actually look like. So you've got all of these gorgeous pastel tones in here. I didn't actually compare them to the lids of the pens. I just got straight into colouring with them. But let's have a comparison. It's pretty accurate, that one. And the light colours I think are usually harder for them to get an accurate match, but that's pretty accurate too. Now let's go another random one. This one, is that the one that's there? Yeah. That looks really accurate as well. Let's go for a random blue. Let's go this one, which is there. So they're pretty accurate with the lids, which is really lovely. So although I say do your swatches, they do seem to be pretty accurate with what is on the lid, which is really nice. So if you were on the go and you didn't have your swatches with you, you should be able to pick out the colours that you want to use as well. Then I did want to do a little comparison between them. So actually, I haven't said the prices. I haven't looked up at the exact price, but most of the time their sets of pens go for about £1 a pen, which is really good, especially for a brush pen as well. You might even be able to get them on offer and they'd be more like towards 50p a pen as well. The price tends to fluctuate wherever you're looking on their website or on Amazon. Because they often do offers and things too, so do have a look around, because I'm sure you can get them for less than £1 a pen, which I think is an absolute bargain. And they are really good pens. I have really been enjoying them, but I wanted to compare to all of the other types of pens that I have, so I'll pick a blue one out to compare, considering I picked a blue one of all of the others. I know this one is a water-based pen, but it's exactly the same as a Pro marker, so I thought I would just have it in there as a size comparison. So these two are Arteza. This is the Everblend, and then this is the Ultra Everblend. Then we've got a tonic one, which is the Nouveau brand. We've got Electroset, which would now be Winsor & Newton, and it's a Pro marker. Although that is actually an aqua marker, but you know what I mean, I've put it there as a size reference. Then we've got a Copic sketch. Then we've got a Graphmaster alcohol pen, which I don't have many of, but I thought I'd throw it into the comparison. And then we have the Ohuhu Honolulu series. Now, one of the great things also about this, I don't know if you watched my Nouveau pen video, but I was really pleased that they have done it so that the lid goes on the other end of the pen whilst you're colouring, and these Ohuhu markers do that as well. So when you're colouring, you can put the lid on the other end of the pen and you don't have to worry about them rolling off of the desk. So if you are working on the sofa, for example, maybe you're watching a load of Christmas films and you just want to do some colouring, make some quick Christmas cards and watch some Christmas films on the sofa, they actually have the ability to put the lid on either end as you're working with them, and they also have little stoppers. So even though they are a cylindrical barrel, they have stoppers on them. So if you roll them across your desk, they then stop when they reach the little stopper on there, which is really nice. So if you were working on a tray on your lap, if you moved position, they shouldn't all go rolling on the floor, which is really lovely. And I don't think any of the other ones actually have a little stop on them. Most of them are a different shape though. So these three are actually triangular barrels and these two are oval barrels. So oh, actually this one does have it on the lid. I forgot that the Pro markers do have it on the lid, so it's another great feature, but actually it has it on both ends, which stops it from rolling even more, which is really good. Then let's have a look at the brush comparison to the other brushes that I have here are the Copic and the Everblend Ultra as well. So let's show a little comparison. Hopefully you can kind of see them all together. The bottom one here is the Ohuhu one, and then the middle is the Copic and the top is the Arteza. It's a pretty close call between all of them. They look very similar in shape and in size as well, and it looks like they're made of a similar kind of foamy sort of material too. So hopefully they're going to hold up as well as a Copic or the Arteza Ultra Everblend markers as well. So that's what the brush nib looks like, and I think they're roughly the same kind of size. This one might have a bigger opening actually for the brush in this one. But you can see the difference in the barrel shapes there as well. So not only is like the type of nib that a pen has, sort of one of the factors that you've got to think about when you're getting pens, also the shape of them. Like, I know some people struggle to grip things as they get older. So maybe a Copic's barrel is too narrow for you and you want something wider, or maybe you like to have a triangular grip because it twists in your hand, and if you've got a triangle it stays still, but you might also just like the circular barrel as well. So they all feel nice in your hand, and I do like this circular barrel. It is really nice to hold and they feel really expensive. So even though they're on like the cheaper side of some of the alcohol pens, they do feel really lovely. They've got a gorgeous like slick smooth feel to the outside. They've got silver printing on the writing. They have the little indication on the outside with the grey rings so that you know which end is the brush end, which I think is fantastic. And I just love that you have the capability to do that as well. I know it's such a small, insignificant kind of thing, but the fact that that's only the second alcohol pen like brand that I've got that you can actually do that with, I think it's so lovely to be able to do that. What else should I tell you? let's compare the chisels actually. So if I go with, I think all of these pens have a chisel on the other end, so I literally can take off the, oh no, because that's not a pro marker, so that doesn't have a chisel on that one, so I can't show you the kind of pro marker end, but I think all of the other ones have a chisel on their end. So we can kind of see a bit of a comparison. Let me try and hold them all at the same height. So I think you can kind of see a comparison between them. This one is the Ohuhu one here, but it's I'd say it's on the larger side for the chisel nib. I'd say it's closest to the Arteza ones, or even this CRaFTmaster actually. Yeah, I think maybe it's the same size as a CRaFTmaster chisel nib. Slightly bigger than the Arteza ones, and then even bigger than either the tonic one or the Copic one, because they have the same sized chisel. So it's on the larger side for a chisel, but I think that's really lovely because it means you can cover larger areas when you're colouring, which is nice. I also love the snap of the lid. You really know when you have clicked that shut. It's got a really good click, which is great because sometimes you don't quite click the lids on properly and then they can dry out. Although I think maybe you can get refills for Ohuhus, or they're on the way if they're not already out. So they might be a good brand of pen to invest in rather than Copics that are like far more expensive, although they have the refill system as well. If you can get a slightly less expensive marker with a refill system too, then it's going to be really worth it, I think. So that is what the actual pen looks like, and a comparison to some other pens that I have. And then I just thought I'd show you a few samples that I have done with some of this colouring as well. So you can see the beautiful like pastel tones and how you've got tones that coordinate, and also different colours as well. I really enjoyed these two blue colours, which were the blue grey and blue grey. They're both called Blue Grey 3, but one's called Blue Grey 3 and one's called Blue Grey 03, but they blend so perfectly together. But I also went in and actually deliberately made like cloudy sort of marks with them as well, and they just give such a perfect like gloomy kind of sky. I also really enjoyed this pigeon blue. I used it for the heads on the little sheep here, and I think it's a really nice sort of blue grey that's not as harsh as maybe a cool grey is. It's more of like a softer kind of grey, and because this is all pastel themed, it goes so perfectly with keeping that pastel kind of theme rather than going for a really dark grey or a black for things that would normally be black. Then we've got all of the beautiful colours that I've coloured this little kind of like palace in, and we've got these beautiful peachy tones. I don't have that many peachy tones in my other brands of pens. I think that is one area that kind of lacks a little bit, especially in the Copic range. I don't have many peaches. I mean, I don't have all the colours, so it could just be that I don't have them, but I do find that it's hard to get like a blending family of peach colours, but there's some really good ones in here, and you even have one that is slightly more on the orange side, so it'll blend really perfectly into the yellows that you have as well. I absolutely adore this colour as well. I don't know if I used it on this one, or I think it was this one. I love this colour, this light holly green. It's perfect for holly, doing the pastel kind of theme to it as well, and I blended it with jade green and then did the light holly green together. The purples are really nice too. Got a little selection of purples here. They look kind of similar, but in person they do look a little bit different, and you can do different sort of blends between them. And also the Ohuhu markers, you can come back in with another layer and build up the colour a little bit more as well if you want to. So if you don't have you know, a dark enough blend that you want, you can just come back in with that darker colour and add a little bit extra to where you want that shadow to be, and that works really nicely as well. You've got some gorgeous pinks in here, just a couple of them, some really light pinks, and this greyish cherry was really nice. What did I use that on? I remember using that to colour. Maybe it was this bit here. I think maybe it was these portions that I used that greyish cherry on and blended it into the queen pink, because that made a really nice blend. And I think I also blended it into mallow on one of the cards as well, actually. I don't think it was that one. Maybe it was that one. Yeah, I think it was on this one actually. I did the greyish cherry as the lightest in my purple section, and then went on to a darker purple to get that nice sort of blended gradient in there as well. But I've really enjoyed these colours, and I don't think it's lacking too much in any area. I mean, there could have been more pinks. We could have had a pastel red, but I think this is the second set of pastels, so I'm presuming anything that you feel like is kind of missing from this set is probably in the first set, because these are kind of more different colours, you know. They're not just like the normal sort of, you know, green, purple, blue, yellow kind of colours. They've got like this unusual kind of green, you've got more corally kind of tones, you've got different aqua kind of colours, these really interesting green tones as well, which I used in the grass areas on this one, and I will show you the rest of these that I've coloured. I'm kind of like swapping backwards and forwards between them, but so many beautiful colours in here. And that is doing the swirls with the end of the brush nib as well, and it's really easy to control to do a swirl. Sometimes brush nibs are really like far too flimsy and you can't really control them to do fine details, but I did the swirls in here, I did crisscross patterns on the mittens and also dots as well, and it was really easy to kind of control that. And if you do that kind of thing a lot and you end up blunting down your brush, then you can flip it over and use the other side, which I think is really fantastic. Done this one as well. I love the light yellows too. They blend out really nicely for that kind of halo effect on Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus on this card. And I like when you do have a couple of colours that maybe don't blend as well as you wanted them to. Like I think I did light holly in the background and then glass green as the foreground colour. They weren't quite the kind of blend that I wanted, so I just went in and added stripes onto it, and it gives that illusion that it's blended, but you don't have to quite have had the perfect colours to blend together, because I'm sure maybe these two would have been a better blend to do for the green, but I really like this kind of muted sort of green that is in there, because it's really unusual compared to a lot of other colours. It's got more grey in it, I would say, than a normal green, so it gives it a little bit of a different kind of tone. So I did that one. Then along a similar theme, I went with the Three Wise Men stamp, but for the Three Wise Men I went for slightly brighter colours. You can see the difference here. This was going for those more muted greens, and then this was going for the brighter greens, so it does give a different look to the card, and you can get slightly brighter looking coloured images from this set of pens as well. So even though they're similar colour schemes on these two, this one definitely looks brighter because I've gone with the slightly brighter tones within the pastel collection as well, so you can play around with that. This one I love, the pastel tones on this. It just looks so beautiful. I think usually if I wanted to try and get this pastel sort of look, I'd have to go with watercolour pencils and watercolour them out, or maybe just coloured pencils on a really light hand. I wouldn't usually turn to alcohol pens to go for a pastel kind of look, but these worked so perfectly. You even have the beautiful grey tones. Which grey was it that I was using? That warm grey, even though it seems quite dark, if you use the warm grey with the blender, you can get beautiful subtle effects on the snow, and I love the effect that I've got on his beard. Usually when I colour any of Francoise's little gnomes' beards, I tend to go too heavy-handed and they turn up looking like they're a grey beard rather than a white beard, but having that lovely brush nib and that beautiful warm grey colour worked really nicely for just adding a little bit of texture to the beard of that gnome. So I really loved it for that as well. And this colour combination, like the light pastel pink, that beautiful light holly green, and some of these blue-grey colours, again, were absolutely fantastic. And if you wanted to deepen it up, you've got that pigeon blue as well, which I think is just really lovely. And the fact that you've got that control over the brush nib, you can do the little effect in the background to draw some falling snow as well. I have added a little bit of sparkly gel pen on some of these if you see something shimmering on them. But I really enjoyed these pens. I think they're really lovely. And I went to town with some brightly coloured sheep on this card because I really wanted to play around with some of the different blends between the yellows and the greens and the peachy kind of colours. And obviously I brought back in the blue greys because I really enjoyed those blue greys. And then the actual sheep, again, I used that pigeon blue and it looks so lovely. It's a really lovely alternative to colouring them with warm greys or cool greys and going towards the black kind of colour. I think that pigeon blue is absolutely beautiful and gives a really different look to the little sheep as well, because the last time I used the sheep I went for warm or cool greys in a much darker tone, but they look so gorgeous with that lighter kind of colour, and it means you can see all of their features as well. And then because you've gone that lighter colour, all of the pastel tones in the rest of the card go really nicely together as well. So I love these peachy tones. I think for this one I might have gone with the light tea rose and the pear colour, bringing in a little bit of the black brown. I'm not 100% sure why that one is called black brown, but it's a really nice colour. It's a gorgeous like fresh salmon kind of colour. I know the one above is called salmon pink, but it is quite like a fresh salmony kind of a colour, or even like a cooked prawn kind of colour maybe for that one. But yeah, that's a really lovely use of some of the pastel tones together, and not going for the usual pastel tones. If I was doing a pastel card, I probably would go for blue, teal, pink and purple, but going for a sort of grey blue, the green, the yellow and the coral gives it a little bit of a different look as well. Then I've also done this one with a little bit of decoupage, just doing the different layers, but going for those gorgeous blue greys again. Can you tell that I like the blue grey colours from this set? And then I've done some aquas in the background bit, and then used again some of those green tones, and I also brought some of the aqua on top of the green to bring that aqua colour into the little snow globe that's on there as well. And that is the warm grey. That browny kind of tone is that beautiful warm grey, and if you build it up a little bit you get that slightly darker tone to give more of a shadow. So that is just one pen, but you can actually get multiple different shades of it by building it up once each layer has dried as well, which I think is really nice. Then I've also done this one, which is a little bit more on the bright side again. So as with the Three Wise Men, I've gone with those same slightly brighter blues and greens, but there's also slightly brighter pink versions in there. Just the one tender pink is a slightly brighter pink. And you can also make the yellows look slightly brighter as well. When they're all together, they do tend to look a little bit brighter. And even though I probably use the darkest yellows in some of the halos, when you put the darker yellow, which is the barium yellow, with the other colours, it all sort of ties nicely together. I did bring in one of my other markers to colour that wooden base because I really wanted it to look like a piece of wood, and we didn't have a darker brown colour in here. But other than that, all of this top portion is coloured with the beautiful Ohuhu markers, and even the sand. I think that was the greyish yellow with a little bit of the yellowish shade to create that sand colour, and it looks really lovely. The final one that I did was then coming back to those beautiful aqua and coral kind of colours together. I do think they make a really nice colour combination for Christmas cards, and I couldn't resist using these little lawn fawn stamps that I had gotten as well. And if you're interested in any of the stamp sets that I've used, I will link them all below just in case you want to get hold of any of them. Most of them are Francoise's ones from Woodware, because I got quite a lot of them and I hadn't had a chance to colour a lot of them in. So obviously I took the opportunity when I got these pens to colour a load of them in, so I've got loads of Christmas cards already done as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video looking at the brand new Ohuhu Honolulu set of 48 pastel brush markers, and don't forget you can get them in different combinations of the nibs as well. They come in brush with chisel, which is the Honolulu ones, then you can also get brush with bullet and bullet with chisel as well. I'm not sure if all of their different ranges come in all of the different styles, but I'm pretty sure on their website you can click on the set of pens that you want and then pick the style of pen that you want as well. But I have really been enjoying these Honolulu ones, and I think I'm going to look into some of the brighter colours as well, because I think they're just really lovely. They feel so beautiful. I love that you can put the cap on the end of the pen, and the brushes are just beautiful to colour with as well. And the fact that you can reverse them is just brilliant. So once you do, you know, accidentally do something to the nib, or just over time, when you've been using it for a long time, if it gets a little bit of wear on it, you can just flip it around as well. So I can't wait to try that feature out when I need to too. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video as part of the CRaFTi Advent series. I might do a little sped up video as one of the other days, colouring in this image of Francoise's as well. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in a little speed colouring in video as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!